Hi, my name is Alan from LV Property. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about yet another controversial topic. Are our HDB flat really unaffordable? I have this inspiration to talk about this topic after this Straits Times article titled HDB will continue to price new flats to income, not resale market. He noted that resale prices are on the high side and vowed to keep public housing affordable. This after our Prime Minister, Lawrence Wong, had a discussion on flats affordability during a dialogue on January 21st with close to 900 students, participants across various education institutions held at the University Culture Center in NUS. This will set the tone for today's discussion. I'll be covering this topic with my best knowledge and stay objective in my analysis. With that, let's head over to the discussion. If you have noticed, the affordability of HDB flats has always been a bread and butter issue. This, after all, the majority of Singaporeans live in public flats. That is why the topic of affordability has always surfaced in people's mind, especially with mind-blowing $1 million HDB transactions surfacing in recent years. There is also a lot of debates on it both in the coffee shop and even in Parliament on this touchy topic. Most recently, back in December 2024, HDB has even clarified that public housing remain affordable and attainable, said HDB, citing international studies, as reported in this Straits Times article. I quote, $1 million flats account for only 2% of total resale transactions in the last 1.5 years, pointing out that these flats were mostly maisonets, executive apartments and jumbo flats, or 5-room flats with attractive attributes, such as good location. You also say that less than 0.5% of 4-room and smaller flats change hands for over $1 million. You also add on, for the vast majority of home buyers, resale flats remain affordable. In 2023, 8 in 10 first-timer families who bought resale flats were able to service their loan installment using their monthly CPF contribution, with little or no cash payment. On this part, the emphasis is always on first-timer. What about second-timer? Is their income rising faster than HDB resale prices? Here, we will come back to this later. In this 2nd of October statement, HDB also pointed out to a study by research firm Demographia. It ranks Singapore 11 out of 94 housing market across 8 economies for housing affordability in 2023, up from 47th place in the previous year. The finding, which was released in June last year, placed the Singapore housing market in the moderately unaffordable category, alongside 14 other markets in the US, UK, and Canada. This set me thinking, what better way to look at the findings? This report is done by Chapman University, located in Los Angeles in USA. To assess housing affordability, median house prices divided by the gross median household income, price to income ratio have been widely used, such as by the World Bank and the United Nations. Here, this is the finding. It mentioned that Singapore median market is 3.8. It is ranked in the moderately unaffordable range. Singapore ranked as the 11th most affordable market this year. At this junction, it raised a few questions in my mind. What data are they comparing with? Do they really know the affordability of the local real estate market better than Singaporeans ourselves? That's why for most of such international reports, I only read them with a pinch of salt. Lai liao. Firstly, I will access the data only from the Singapore Department of Statistics. This is the gross monthly household income from employment of full-time employed residents from 2014 to 2024. I will only use the 50th percentile of median household income. From the table, the median monthly household income in 2014 was 8,292 per month. In 2023, it is risen to 10,869 per month. As for 2024, data is not out yet, but I have estimated it with an 8% growth rate at 11,700 per month. This means the household income from 2014 to 2024 has increased by 41%. As for HDB data, since they are compiled on a quarterly basis, I will use the Q4 data for each year. In 2014, the RPI was 137. By 2024, the RPI has increased to 197.9. This means the RPI in the past decade had increased by 44%. Here, what does this mean? Well, it seems that the 50% percentile of household has seen their wages increase by 41% in the past decade too. This is in proportion with the increase in HDB RPI. Does this mean that HDB resale flats are still affordable to the 50 percentile of medium household? I mean, at this junction, there are a lot of camps here. The lower income below the 50% percentile will feel the heat with a rising property price. As for those that are above the 50% percentile will say that HDB prices are still within their means. This is a never-ending discussion, as what our PM has said before in last year's National Day rally speech. He mentioned how some have compared them when their parents have bought brand new BTO flats in the low thousands a few decades ago, and how much they are currently worth. The same goes for today HDB BTO flats and rising wages. If you are keen, you can watch the full video here. I have left the links in the description below. What I only know is that HDB has publicly declared that HDB BTO flats prices are already delinked from the resale market to keep flats affordable for most Singaporeans. HDB has even mentioned countless times even in its BTO sales of flat program. Most buyers can pay the monthly installment with their CPF funds with minimum cash outlay for their choice BTO flat depending on location and housing type. I mean, these are actual facts. If you don't believe in me, you can go and ask any of your relatives staying in brand new BTO flats. Every year, HDB also reported a deficit in its home ownership program. When HDB lose money, this also indirectly means someone are making money. Correct or not? HDB already said they delink BTO flats to HDB resale prices. Seriously, this one I also need to teach you? However, when it comes to resale HDB market, I personally find that the lower income family face difficulties catching up as Singapore progress. Some have already been left behind. Let me plug the numbers using the lower 20 percentile. This is the lower bottom of households that are below average. From the table, we can see that monthly household income has increased from 3,600 to 4,900 in 2024, whereas HDB RPI has surged by 44% during the same period. This also means the lower income have difficulties in owning their first flat. That is why the authority give housing grant to eligible buyers to offset their purchase. This is what HDB deem it as targeted assistance. I think this is a good public policy. By the way, if you know of any poor income family that are in need, please help them by assisting them with this government website, supportgoware.life.gov.sg. This is a Life SG government initiative supported by various ministries to get help in support scheme and services all in one places. Singapore has a lot of targeted support assistance in place for those that need help, from disability to seniors, health to medical, and even to housing. Just take a look at housing. There are already 46 social support available to you. Government give free money, yet you still don't want to know. When I ask you to go to Singapore Pool, I doubt I need to teach you. Why like that? How to uplift yourself from the bottom? I have personally seen how some of you have uplifted themselves from the bottom 20% to the top 20% within a decade. It can be done. It's not impossible. That is why all these government supports are extremely useful if you know how to leverage on them. We have discussed in details on the affordability of HDB flats. How can I lift up the affordability of private property? I'm very sure never ever has been done before in such a technical yet simple method to assess the housing affordability of private properties in Singapore. In similar fashion, I will use the data for the 80 percentile of median monthly household. These are the top 20% of the household that are doing better. Let's assume they are the one that can comfortably afford a private property today. In 2023, they have a monthly household income of 20,727. This is in comparison to the 50% at 10,869, which is almost double of that. For the lower 20% percentile, they are only making less than 5,000 per month. This also means the median 50% are making twice as much, and the top 80% are making 4 times as much. That is why the Pareto principle applies. The top 20% will make 80% of the sales, whereas the bottom 80% will have to share the remaining 20% of the pie. Here, if I plot back against the URA property price index, which I've accessed only to 2019, the top 80% income has increased from 18,000 in 2019 to 22,000 in 2024. This is a 21% increase. Whereas the URA PPI started off at 153.6 back in Q4 2019 and appreciated to 209.4 in fourth quarter 2024. This also means that private property growth rate has surged 36% instead. This also means that private property price have increased at a faster rate by 15%. Hence, private property has become less affordable as compared to 2019. Do I make sense here? Let's sum up. For the medium household, the rise in HDB prices is still manageable for most medium income family. Although I would say that the 3% difference is not significant at this junction. Nevertheless, it will still add price pressure to most families. For families that are in the bottom 20%, I think the impact has really been felt for the longest time ever. The difference is a cool 7%. Their wages have not catch up as fast as the rise in HDB prices. I humbly suggest that the authority to formulate policy to assist second-timers households that have plans to right size. As for the private segment, the huge gap of 14% is a cause of concern. Our private market has stayed elevated for the longest time ever, even with measures after measure pouring in. Hence, it will be good for policymakers to take a look at affordability using household income instead. Here, I hope I have enlightened everyone with this simple video. I hope I have slayed it, especially when it comes down to numbers. Appreciate the likes, subscribe and share. That's all, and see you in the next video.